Hi everyone, and welcome to today's video where we're going to be doing a guide for England for EU4 1.33 France. So England is one of the most popular and one of the most powerful nations in EU4 and is definitely a player favorite, and even though I've already done a guide for them for 1.32 and I usually skip an update with my guides, I decided to do another guide for England here after being inspired by my recent A to Z run as them, where we did the different English strategy where we didn't actually PU France. Now in my opinion, this strategy that we're going to be using for this guide is easier for newer players rather than PUing France. So if you're a newer player, this strategy might be for you. If you haven't done it, it also might be for you. But if you want to check out the other strategy where we do PU France, you can check out my previous England 1.32 guide, which should still be relevant for this update. England starts off owning most of Great Britain. As we can see, Scotland is to our north, and we do have possessions here in Ireland in the province of Dublin, and we have these possessions over here in the north of France in Normandy, and in the south of France in Gascony as well. Of course, newer players might be deterred from playing England due to the fact that the 100 Years' War is still looming large, and we might have to fight France pretty soon, paired with the fact that we start off with this horrible 000 guy here, and the War of the Roses will very soon fire. England might be a tougher start for some newer players. But by using this guide, you'll have an easy time dealing with the War of the Roses, conquering Ireland, subjugating or conquering Scotland, and then conquering all of France for yourself. And before we begin, if you enjoyed this video, don't hesitate to leave a like. It really helps out a lot. And boys, consider subscribing. I'm trying to hit 100k subs before PDXCon at the beginning of September, or else this England guide won't work. Let's take a look at what we need to do as England. Alright, here we are as England. This is our situation right off the bat, and of course you all know we do have the unique government reform, the English monarchy, which gives us -1 national arrest, plus 0.5 year legitimacy, -30 max absolutism, and plus 50 gov cap. And like I said, we do start off with this horrible guy right here, but we are gonna have to stick with him for quite a while. But first we're gonna go into our estates and not summon the Diet because, well, we can't, and we're gonna give the clergy religious state and religious diplomats, and we're gonna give the burghers land of commerce, patronage of the arts, and indebted to the burghers. We'll take the advisor discounts later. Next, we're gonna sell titles and seize land. As we can see right here, we have no debate in parliament, and we do have a parliament as the English monarchy, and of course we have too few seats in our parliament as well. We need 8, but we have 5, so just give 3 random provinces seats in parliament by clicking this button right here. It doesn't matter which provinces you give these to, it's all the same. After you're given these guys seats, you can start a debate, or you can even start a debate before you give them out seats, so you can do less things. It's up to you. I guess the optimal way to do it would be to actually start a debate before giving out seats, but whatever. And then we can start a debate, and I recommend taking an issue to push if you have one for manpower. I don't have one. And then you can also try and get one for a general or advisor discounts. So out of those 3 that I listed right here, pretty much the only relevant one for me is this advisor discount right here, so that's what I'm gonna do. And then you need to give these guys some stuff so it passes, so I'm gonna give diplomatic support right here. I'm gonna give them military support as well, and I'm gonna bribe an MP. And there we go, we got an advisor discount. Next, we can go ahead and hire some advisors. Get whichever level 1 admin advisor you want. We do have this half-cost national arrest guy, so I do recommend taking him. Get a diplorep or improve relations guy. We do have this half-cost diplorep guy, so I do recommend getting him as well. And get a mill advisor as well. A morale, discipline, or fort defense guy would be great. I have a morale guy. If you got a theologian, you may be able to pass this right here, and then do it. Now that all that is set, we need to deal with Maine right here in order to not be in the surrender of Maine War, and we also need to take this mission right here, levy the troops, which gives us permaclaims on Ireland and a subjugation CB on Scotland. And in order to deal with that mission, here's what we're gonna do. We're actually gonna go into the production interface over here and then go into the exploit development tab, and then we're gonna exploit manpower development from a couple of provinces like London, Bordeaux, these 3 right here, a couple of more, it doesn't matter too much. About 10 to 15 should be enough. Now with that, we've gained manpower, but also we have a less maximum manpower. And to get 60% manpower, we'll need around 15 to 16k. And we also need to rearrange our armies a bit. So we're gonna take this main army right here that's in London and get a cavalry regiment and tell it to go down to this army right here. And from the army in London, we're also gonna take 1 infantry regiment and delete it. We also start off with some boats, and we're gonna tell these 9 light ships right here to protect trade in the English Channel and go home during war. That's it for now. Now it's time for some alliances. And I should have mentioned this right at the start, but I do recommend restarting until France is rivaled to both Castile and Austria, like it is here in my case. I had to restart 3 times to get this scenario right here. But if France is rivaled to both Austria and Castile, you're good to go. So that's why we're gonna ally Austria and Castile. Those are the only 2 alliances you'll need for now. After this, you can also set some rivals, rival the nations that have already rivaled you, along with France. So there we go, I rivaled France. I'm gonna rival Scotland and Denmark. Why not? And now we also need to deal with Maine right here, and we're gonna do that by going to Provence and offering them to sell them Maine. There it is right here. Take as much money as you can from them. There we go. I'm gonna get about 46 ducats. It's not about the money, it's just about us not owning Maine. And there we go, we won't have to deal with France on their terms. Something else that we're gonna do is we're gonna go and create a subject and we'll release the nation of Gascony, which is gonna pop out down here. They have a course on a ton of French provinces and we're gonna be reconquering these very, very soon. At this point, we can also take a naval doctrine. I recommend taking the wooden wall. Now it's time to let a month tick by. And there we go, now that a month has ticked by, Austria also sent me an alliance offer and this has reduced right here. So we're also gonna accept a royal marriage from Portugal in my case. I'm not gonna accept Gascony to become a march, and at this point you will see that the War of the Roses will start ticking. And at this point, if you still can't take the mission levy the troops, you should go and exploit some more development right here, mill of course, and we're also gonna hire the free company as well. There we go. After exploiting a little bit more development and hiring the free company, you will be able to take the mission levy the troops. And with that, we get a subjugation CB on Scotland and or claims, and we get claims on Ireland as well. Now it's time to deal with the War of the Roses disaster. If you've gotten a good heir or something like that, or maybe a York, Lancaster, or Plantagenet heir, this disaster may not fire. But I am gonna purposely let it trigger in my case here just to show you how to deal with it, because in your case, you're most likely gonna get it as well. So it's time to wait for this. Make sure to move all your armies to London so no rebels pop out on them and get destroyed. We also do start off with a general right here, John Talbot, and you may have also gotten another one from your parliament. Of course, if you got manpower from your parliament, you won't have to exploit as much development as I did. At this point, you're also gonna start currying favors with Austria and currying favors with Castile and improving relations with allies. At this point, you can also build 2 more transports and about 5 to 10 galleys. Right before the War of the Roses starts, you should move an army stack down to Caen. And there we go, exactly on March 1st, 1448, you should get the War of the Roses, of course, if you haven't gotten an heir. And you can choose to support the House of Lancaster or the House of York, depending on which guy we have here. As we can see, Arthur here, 635, is much better than Edgar here with a 112, so I am going to support the House of York. As we can see right here, 19 pretenders are going to rise up in Lancashire. So we're going to take our army up here with the Free Company and attach the Free Company to the army and walk up to where the pretenders will spawn. In my case, it's Lancashire. You will have enough time, don't worry. And once you're right before the province where the rebels will spawn, you will tell these guys to start walking in, wait for them to get locked in, and then click whichever house you're gonna support. Just like this. And there we go. The War of the Roses has started. We're gonna deal with lots of pretenders, lots of bad events, and of course I will show you how to handle it each time. Of course, to end the disaster, as we can see here, we need to destroy all pretender rebels. And the key here is being as fast as possible. When you get these types of events pertaining to the War of the Roses, try not to take the one where you lose manpower. There's always an option like this. Try to avoid this one and just take something else. Rebels should spawn down here as well, so just get another general or give your ruler mill command if he's not that good like mine, and then go beat these guys up as well. And there we go, I've defeated all my rebel stacks and unoccupied all provinces. I got about 4 spawns, including the initial one. So the starting guys, 1 down here and 2 more armies up here, and now I've dealt with these guys. Chances are, no matter how fast you are gonna get about 4 or 5 stacks. And with that, the War of the Roses has ended. If you're lucky, you may not have lost too much manpower, but chances are you have. And with that done, we have concluded that disaster, and we can take the mission, the War of the Roses. Now, it's time to commence with our first wars. And our first war is gonna be precisely against France, and we're gonna be doing a reconquest for Gascony's cores. By this point, of course, you should have more than 10 favors with both Austria and Castile, and of course, if Austria isn't busy with the Burgundy-Liège war, or Castile isn't busy with Granada, you should be able to easily declare. If not, you're just gonna have to wait for them to end their own wars. But in preparation for this war, we're actually not gonna move down here to Normandy, and we're gonna take all our armies somewhere down here on our coast. And of course, we will easily have naval supremacy. We're also going to hire an admiral and put our fleet right here or right here. And once your armies are down here, you can simply declare on France. If we're quick enough with France, we might also be able to subjugate Scotland. But if not, we'll just be conquering them regularly, because our subjugation CB on them expires in 1455, basically 10 years after we take the first mission. So just simply go ahead and declare on France for the reconquest of one of Gascony's cores. It doesn't matter which one, maybe this one. And of course, you will be able to call an Austrian and Castile, and maybe even Portugal. In my case, Portugal are willing to help out. Now, the reason we're not going right here is because France is gonna easily beat us up. So first, we're gonna wait for our allies to start doing some work before we move in ourselves. So go ahead and declare a reconquest war on France. France shouldn't have any strong allies, and you should be easily able to beat them with Austria and Castile's help. Of course, when you do declare war on France, you will be able to take the 100 Years' War mission, which gives us some permaclaims on these areas right here. And as we all know, once we occupy Paris, the next mission is Strategic Control, which gives us a Force Union CB on France. We're not even going to be using this because, like I said, this strategy doesn't rely on us PUing France. Once you do land in France and start sieging, keep your armies close together. You don't want to get caught off guard by France because their armies are stronger. But with the help of Castile and Austria and maybe even Portugal, this is a very, very easy war. In most of my trial runs, France goes to occupy Austria just like it's happening right now. This will probably be the case in your campaign too. And Austria will most likely get pieced out before you end the war. It's not a problem. Once you occupy Paris, you will be able to take the mission Strategic Control, and you should do it. We don't really care about the PU. Like I said, if you want to PU France, check out my last England guide. And once you have about 90% war score versus France, it is time to peace out. And like I said, if you were quick enough, you will be able to do this before 1455, which means we'll still have the subjugation CB on Scotland. But if it's after 1455, you won't have to do one of these steps right here. So when piecing out France, of course, we're gonna give Gascony all of their cores back, and they do have a ton of cores, and those are these provinces right here. Of course, you will be able to see them easily. The second thing we're gonna do is we're gonna take Carcassonne right here and Valois up there, and we're gonna make France end their guarantee over Scotland. Of course, you can take a couple of ducats too if you want to, and that's our first war with France done. And just like that, we've weakened France very, very significantly and gotten Gascony all of their cores back. But we're not gonna core Valois or Carcassonne. Instead, what we're gonna do is we're gonna release the nation of Champagne up here in Valois, and we have 4 cores to reconquer for them. And we're also gonna release the nation of Toulouse from down here. We also have 4 cores to reconquer for them. And that's our war with France done. Now these guys aren't a problem anymore, and you won't even need Austria or Castile's help to defeat them. But now, if it's before 1455, it's time to immediately go back up to England because we do need to declare our subjugation war on Scotland. Of course, if it's after 1455 and you don't have that CB anymore, you're simply gonna conquer Scotland regularly. It's totally up to you how you want to do it. Some of you guys may struggle with more subjects, and others might want to save some admin points on coring these provinces. At this point, you will still be suffering from 0 manpower, or maybe you've gotten it up a bit if you play a little more optimally than me. At this point, no need to curry favors with Castile and Austria anymore. Instead, you can improve with outraged countries and own subjects. And no, unfortunately, we can't give out strong duchies to the nobility because we don't have nobles. But after this war is done, you can also give the clergy Clerical Advisory Council and give the burghers Commercial Advisory Board. If you have a bit of time until 1455, you may want to chill and get your manpower up a bit. I'm gonna wait around about a year here before moving on Scotland. At this point, you can totally delete the forts in Caen, Calais, and Montgomery. And there we go. After a little bit of time has passed, it is time for me to declare my subjugation war on Scotland. You may already be doing it, but in preparation for this, you're gonna want your main stack and the Free Company over here, and the secondary army in Ireland, and you're gonna want your fleet in the Irish Sea. And then we're gonna simply declare on Scotland with the subjugation CB. You can even call in Castile. For example, in my case, they would join, and I actually am gonna call them in to help me with Brittany. And of course, this army is right here because Scotland is most likely gonna be allied to Irish guys, and we need to beat them up as well. So go ahead and declare your subjugation CB on Scotland if you still have it. If not, declare a regular conquest. When beating up these Irish allies that Scotland has, just white peace them because we are going to be fighting them soon. For your tier 2 government reform, you should of course take strengthen noble privileges. And of course, when you do beat up Scotland, you're either going to take as much as you can from them if you declared with a regular conquest, or if you use the subjugation CB, you're going to subjugate them. Don't worry about the Isles, we'll deal with them later. Scotland also has cores on them, so we can just use them to reconquer it. But just go into the treaties, select English vassal. This is going to be quite a bit of but luckily no one cares because we really haven't conquered a lot so far, and it's also Scotland. It's pretty far away from everyone else. So just subjugate them and take all their money. And with that, our second war is done, and we either have Scotland as a vassal or we've taken a significant chunk out of them. At this point, your subjects may be disloyal because you have so many of them, but don't worry, once we get our tech up and improve with them, they'll fall in line really quickly. But now it's time to chill for about 5 years to work on our economy autonomy and manpower. After that, we'll continue with the conquest of Ireland. At this point, since you're larger, you will be able to take a new burgher loans, and if you have any old loans, you can use your burgher loans to pay off the regular loans. And you can also start constructing some buildings. By this point, you will have unlocked churches and marketplaces, so start building those marketplaces. I just built 5 in these 4 provinces in England and in Calais as well. By this point, the Renaissance should have spawned and the guys should have picked the golden bull that spreads it through cardinals, but you may have a little extra points because of course you shouldn't tech up to tech 5 before you take the Renaissance, so you should use those extra points to dev London a bit. Of course, you should activate encourage development and try and get it up to 30. After you embrace the Renaissance and tech up, like I just did, you will be able to take your first idea group. And as England or Great Britain, you have 2 choices. To start colonizing right away, which may not be the most optimal, to start colonizing on your 3rd and 4th idea group, which is sort of what England usually does and colonizes later in the game. No one will be in North America anyway, or you can not colonize at all. The choices are up to you. If you want to colonize right away, you're of course going to open up with exploration and then expansion. And if you want to colonize later, or not colonize at all, I recommend opening up with quality ideas. This will buff our already super powerful navy even more, and it'll buff up our army even more as well. We do start off with 10% infantry combat ability, paired with quality, it'll be 20 in no time. So it's totally up to you if you want to go exploration expansion or quality and then later trade. Since I usually colonize later in my games and take those 2 idea groups for the 3rd and 4th one, I'm gonna open up with quality. But like I said, it's totally up to you. And of course, you should focus on mill if you took quality, and you should focus on dip if you took exploration. After you embrace the Renaissance, you can knowledge share to someone to get back your money. I'm gonna knowledge share with Castile, that's 2.53 ducats a month, easy. Once you hit something like 1460, it's time to reduce autonomy because it has been increasing because we do have low crownland ownership. So just click all of these minus signs, one of the most satisfying things in the game for me personally. Of course, this will cause unrest and it will cause some rebels to pop out, but listen, you're making more money, have more manpower, and you're more powerful in trade with lower autonomy, and you'll get army tradition by fighting all those rebels. I made 8 ducats a month before lowering autonomy, now I make almost 14. And don't forget to always lower autonomy every 10 to 15 years, at least until you take centralized bureaucracy. And now that a little bit of time has passed, it's time to continue with our conquest of Ireland. By now, this is how I've rearranged my armies. I have this main stack right here which has 22 infantry and 4 cavalry, and then I still have the free company over here to do some light lifting. So just go ahead and declare on whichever nation in Ireland you want to. Basically, whichever nation is the weakest. In my case, I'm probably gonna declare on these guys right here. Let's see. Their ally won't even help them, so this is perfect. Fight whoever you want to, whoever is easiest. It really doesn't matter in which order you conquer these guys. You can even fight a couple of wars at the same time if you want to. You don't have to take it one by one. Of course, during all this time, don't focus on paying off loans or anything like that. Use all your money to first build up marketplaces in all the center of trade provinces you have. I have about 200 ducats right now. There we go, there's another one in this province. And there we go, now that I've defeated this nation, I'll simply be full annexing them. And there's no waiting around, I'll simply declare my next war immediately on this nation right here who happens to be allied to the Isles, and we can just give the Isles to Scotland since they have a core on one of the provinces anyway. If any of these nations are allied to strong nations, like in my case here, Ulster is allied to Burgundy, you should easily be able to diplo-vassalize them, which is exactly what I'm gonna do with Ulster right here, because I can't be bothered fighting Burgundy for just one Irish province. You will be able to do the same if one of these guys has allied a strong nation. And now this war is done as well. I'm gonna give the Isles to Scotland like I said. If you find yourself in a situation like this, you'll also do it. If not, you'll just declare a separate war on the Isles. It doesn't really matter too much. And there we go, like I said, I'll give that to Scotland and take this for myself. We don't really care about the aggressive expansion here. Like I said, these guys over in mainland Europe won't really care that you're fighting Scotland and Ireland. But once you do give these provinces to Scotland, you will be able to take this mission right here, which gives you permaclaims on some of Norway's stuff and advisor discounts along with admin points. Once you get 50 papal influence, you should take this right here, send papal legate, for +1 diplo rep and -10% diplo annex cost. Of course, you should also hire a diplo rep guy, and then you should start annexing one of your initial subjects, Gascony. If you opened up with exploration and are using diplo points for that, you may want to hold off on this since you'll be using diplo Diplo points on 2 things. But if you opened up with quality like I did, then you can definitely go ahead and start it. After you've done 2 or 3 wars in Ireland, you're gonna want to chill a bit and fight some rebels that are gonna pop out because we decreased autonomy. And you should also build marketplaces in your subjects. Scotland has 2 provinces you can build them in, and Gascony should have 1. These are gonna be our provinces later anyway, so why not get ready for that? And now we're simply continuing our conquest in Ireland. Like I said, on whichever nation you want to, I'm gonna declare on Thomond right here and annex Ulster as well. You don't have to co-belligerent these guys to full annex them. And I didn't co-belligerent them because Ulster is precisely allied to Burgundy. So you can also do this or diplo-vassalize them. It's up to you. And now that I've defeated these 2 nations, I'll be full annexing them as well. And like I said, there's really no philosophy here. Just fight whoever you want to in Ireland. At this point, our entire focus is on Ireland because our truce with France is still running and we have a little bit to go before it runs out. At this point, I'm also going to declare on Desmond because they don't have any allies. There we go. And now both of my wars are over. I'll full annex these guys and these 2 nations as well. Now it's just 2 Irish guys left and it's time to deal with them as well. And just like that, it's time to wrap up Ireland. You will be close to conquering all of Ireland by the time your truce with France runs out. In my case, it's already ran out, but I am gonna take care of these guys before going back to France. So I'm gonna declare on Munster right here and co-belligerent Ormond. And let's get this done with. Of course, if you feel like this is too fast for you, you don't have to conquer these guys as quickly as I do. You can totally play at your own pace and focus on building up your economy more. And now that I've defeated these nations, I'll full annex them as well. And now that I'm done with Ireland, I can go focus on France. The same thing that you should do as well. And after you do conquer all of Ireland, you will be able to take this mission right here, which gives us goods produced in some of these provinces. Awesome. Of course, you should delete any and every fort in Ireland. These aren't needed at all. And once you get your troops back down in Normandy, it's time to fight our second war with France, where we're gonna retake Toulouse's scores, campaign scores, and maybe a little more. And in this second war, Austria and Castile and Portugal should be able to help you out as well. Let's see, in my case, Portugal won't join, but it's really not a big deal, so we can just declare for whatever, something like the reconquest of Montpellier right here, call on Austria and Castile again, and this will be an even easier war than last time. Now, in my case here, Castile does have Savoy as a junior partner as well, because Aragon got Savoy as a junior partner, and even though this is unrealistic and it won't happen in your games, such a small nation doesn't affect my gameplay right here, so this guide is not gonna be irrelevant for you guys. It's really not a big deal. And in your campaign, by this point, the Burgundian succession may have happened, and you guys already know what happens there. If Austria got them, that's perfectly normal. If no one got them, that's normal. If someone random like Milan got them, that's also normal. But France can also get Burgundy depending on if they started out rivaled or not. In my case, they are, so France is probably not gonna get them, but France having Burgundy is nothing unusual. Of course, it'll be easier for you if they don't have Burgundy, but you're still gonna be able to beat them super easily, even if they do. And at this point, I've also annexed Gascony. Of course, once you do annex them, you can just state these provinces for free, since they're pretty much already your cores. And once you get about 80 or 90% war score with France, your second war with them is done as well. Now, because we declared a reconquest for Toulouse's cores right here, we're only gonna be giving them their cores back, because as you all know, if I give Champagne their cores back as well, it's regular aggressive expansion. So in the second war with France, here's what I recommend doing. I recommend taking back all of Toulouse's cores and then taking their coastline as well, which means if they have provinces right here, take the coastline, or if they have provinces right here, take the coastline. So I'm gonna take these 4 provinces right here, take stuff up to 50 AE, something like that. This is pretty good for me. Toulouse's cores back in these 4 provinces, you can do the same, but like I said, try to get them to not have a coastline. And you can also take war reps and all their money if you want to, but you also don't have to do that in case you want a shorter truce. In my case, I am gonna get war reps and money since I don't care about the shorter truce that much. And that's our second war with France done. By this point, they shouldn't have a coastline, and Toulouse should have all of their cores back. Once you have more coastal provinces than 40, and once you have above 90% of your force limit, which of course you will, and I need to destroy a lot of boats here because that's way over force limit, you will be able to take the mission Maritime Empire, where you get an awesome general and a permaclaim on Gibraltar. After your second war with France, some of the guys in the French region will of course be very angry with you, but this is not a problem. For your tier 3 government reform, you should take centralized bureaucracy. After you've built up marketplaces in all the relevant provinces, start constructing workshops in the high-value trade good provinces. Trade goods that give you at least 3 ducats. For your first age ability, you can take Justified Wars for less aggressive expansion, or if you're feeling wild, you can take Transfer Subject for half cost and Claims Bordering Claims, and maybe try to steal Norway or something from Denmark. For the purposes of this guide, I did take Justified Wars, but of course if you're a more experienced player, you might want to go with this. But then again, if you are a more experienced player, you don't need a guide. After you've wrapped up your second war with France, you can go back to finishing off any of the Irish guys, of course if they're still left, but if not, you're just gonna chill, wait around, buff up your economy, build up your nation, do a little deving, build some buildings and stuff like that. Because if at this point you're not colonizing, just like me, we're pretty much waiting around for a truce with France to expire or for aggressive expansion to die down so we can fight someone like Brittany or Burgundy or Provence. By the way, I'm just helping Castile in this Florence war, nothing I declared personally. Of course, something I didn't mention is, if you're not rival to Burgundy, or if Burgundy doesn't hate you, you can totally go ahead and royal marry them and ally them to try and get the Burgundian inheritance yourself. I can't do that in my case since we're rivaled, but if you were lucky and you're not rivaled, you can totally go for it. For your second idea group, if you took exploration, you're obviously gonna take expansion. However, if you took quality, just like me, I recommend trade, but you could also go with economic here. I'm personally gonna go with trade. After a little bit of time has passed and you've chilled a little after your second France war and maybe wrapped up things over in Ireland, it is time to continue with your conquests over in the region of France. And there's a number of nations that you could fight here aside from France, such as Brittany, Provence, or Burgundy. One of those three nations will be your target. In my case here, I'm gonna declare on Burgundy to reconquer Champagne scores because Burgundy has taken some provinces from France. I think they took about 3 or 4 provinces. But you can fight whichever nation you want to, whichever nation seems the easiest or the most fun. It's totally up to you. So I'm gonna declare on Burgundy right here for the reconquest of Reims right here, and I'm gonna also call in Austria. You may not be able to defeat Burgundy yourself, depending on your skill level, if they still have their subjects up here. So if you can call in your allies, do it. Of course, if you're fighting Brittany or Provence, you're probably not even gonna need allies. And by the way, I'm just helping out Portugal fight Morocco in this other war. If of course you are colonizing during this period, you should focus on colonizing the stuff that benefit England/Great Britain the most, such as North America and the Caribbean up until Mexico, something like that. Basically all the trade that gets routed up to here, and of course you should be going along the coast of Africa and making trade companies. With one colonist you can colonize the New World, and then once a colonial nation forms, move on to colonizing a different location, so another one forms, and with the other 1 or 2 colonists, you should be colonizing Africa, going over to India, and then the East Indies. Basically, you want to route all this trade up to the English Channel. And you probably know, but fighting Burgundy is super annoying due to all the forts they have and all the forts that their subjects have. But like I said, at this point, Burgundy, it may be owned by Austria, or by France, or by someone else entirely. It's totally up to you which nation you fight in France. And basically, once your war with whichever of these nations you're fighting is done, you're gonna take as much as aggressive expansion permits you. So you may be able to annex all of Brittany, but if you do, a coalition might form. So of course, use your best judgment, try and take the best provinces, and try not to get too much aggressive expansion. In my war with Burgundy here, I'm gonna give Champagne their cores back, and I'm also gonna take these 3 provinces up here. That's enough for me for now. As always, my limit is about 50 AE when trying to balance conquest and aggressiveness. I'm also gonna take war reps and as much money as I can. And that's my war with Burgundy done. At this point, you can start annexing Champagne or Toulouse, whichever nation you want, as long as you've given all of their cores back to them. Of course, Toulouse here does still have 1 more core on Aragon, but I'm not going to be fighting this Castile anytime soon, so I am going to start annexing Toulouse. You should check if you have this active. I don't, and you should get a Diplorep guy, which I do. Keep in mind that if you take these provinces from Burgundy, they're going to be really expensive to core because they are super high dev and they're already in a state. So it's going to cost me about 600 admin points to core all of these up. And that's totally fine, of course, if you're working on these 2 idea groups like me. However, if you're working on expansion right now, it may slow you down a bit. Of course, you can also tell your subjects to divert trade as long as it doesn't make them too angry. In my case, if I make Scotland divert, they're a bit disloyal. I don't want to waste prestige if I don't have to. So there we go. It's been about another 15-20 years since I last lowered autonomy, so I'm gonna do it now again. In my case, the Burgundian succession just happened and they chose to remain independent. Of course, France automatically declared a restoration of union on them, and I don't think France is gonna win this. So I'm gonna wait for this to play out, and then I'm gonna declare my 3rd war against France. By around this point in the game, you should totally be farming cash. I'm making about 24 ducats right now, which is pretty strong for this time period. Of course, you're using all of this money to reinvest into your nation. Of course, I could also run a 2nd army stack since my force limit is so big, but I'm not that good on manpower just yet, so I'm just reinvesting all of this money that I'm making into workshops in all the high-value trade good provinces. Even though we don't make it that much from them right now, this is basically investing for the future, and you will be deving them up. Of course, course, once you've built workshops in all the available provinces, you can totally build them in your subjects as well if they have any high value provinces, such as those 2 cloth ones or these 3 iron ones. After you're done with workshops, you can go ahead and build some barracks in the grain and livestock provinces. And there we go, I've just annexed Toulouse. And France surprisingly did get a PU over Burgundy, but they also just got coalitioned, which is actually not something that I've seen before. This probably won't happen in your game. I can also form a coalition against them, although it will be a separate one. And by the way, this is who they're fighting right now. And France, of course, lost the coalition war. They kept their PU over Burgundy, but they made Burgundy pop out Flanders and Brabant, or at least parts of them, and Provence took some stuff from France as well, and Dauphine has also popped out. And of course, once your truce with France is up, it's time for your third war against them, where this time you're gonna take as much as you can and as much as you want. None of my allies will join me because they have truces, but I'm simply gonna declare a reconquest for the final Champagne Corps. And there we go, my third war with France is pretty much done. Like I said, you're gonna take as much as you can and as much as AE permits you. I'm gonna give Champagne their final corps back, and I'm also gonna take these 3 provinces right here, along with war reps and some money. After you take Paris, you will be able to take the mission Subjugate France, which gives you some prestige, manpower recovery speed, and harsh treatment cost. And by around the 1490s, your game should look a little something like this. Basically, we started off as England by doing this mission right here, levy the troops, so we could get permaclaims on Ireland and Scotland, and the subjugation CB on Scotland as well. And after that, we dealt with the War of the Roses by fighting the rebels. That will probably decimate your manpower, but it is what it is. You're just gonna have to deal with it, or if you're lucky, you may not have gotten it at all, in which case, great. You're in a better position than me. But after that, once we stabilized from the War of the Roses, it was time to declare our first war versus France, and like I said, Austria and Castile, and maybe even Portugal should have helped you out in that war. And in that first war, we reconquered Gascony scores, which we of course released, and took a couple of provinces to also release Champagne and Toulouse for later reconquest. After we were done with our first French war, if it was before 1455, or whenever you took that mission, you should have subjugated Scotland. If not, you should have conquered them regularly, and then we continued on with the conquest of Ireland. And once we wrapped up Great Britain and Ireland, it was time to shift our focus back to France in our second war, where we retook Toulouse's cores and took everything else that is coastal that France owned. And after that point, if you are colonizing, you should have focused on colonization a bit, building up your nation and stuff like that, while waiting for our third truce with France to expire. And you should have also fought another nation in the French region, like Brittany, Provence, or Burgundy. I fought Burgundy in my case, you may have fought a different nation. And after that, you should have fought your third war with France, and by the 1490s, you should look like this. Basically, we own all of England and Ireland, and Scotland is our subject, or you also own these provinces directly. If Scotland is your subject, of course, you're gonna form the British nation diplomatically, and you will instantly inherit Scotland, and you should own more or less half of the French region. This is what I own right now. Of course, if you're colonizing, you should have a couple of colonies going in North America and a couple of colonies going in Africa. Maybe you've even reached India or the East Indies by now. It's totally up to you and your playstyle. And of course, by this point, you should have been deving your nation a ton, building a ton of buildings. As we can see right here, these are all the marketplaces I've built in all the center of trade provinces, a ton of workshops in all the high value trade good provinces, in myself and in my subjects as well, a bunch of barracks too, a couple of churches here and there, or maybe not. I guess I don't have churches, but you should be making a ton of money, and that shouldn't be an issue at all right now. I'm making about 25 ducats right now, but that's with corruption, forts up, armies up. You should be making around 20 to 30 ducats during this point as well. Of course, we do have a massive force limit. You may be running 2 stacks. I have this 26k stack right here, which I haven't added cannons yet, and there we go, there's 7 cannons right there. I also have a free company up and running here. Your army composition may be similar to this. Of course, I do have 2 lightship fleets protecting trade in the English Channel and the Lubeck trade nodes for now. Of course, later I'm going to protect other stuff like Bordeaux, maybe even the North Sea, depending on our control. And you may have also upgraded some centers of trade. There we go, I'll upgrade this right now, maybe Calais too, why not? You know how the thing goes. After this point, you'll continue to expand in the same directions we've already sort of been expanding in. You're going to want to consolidate the entire region of France right here, and later on deal with the Low Countries as well, because these are very high def provinces. They're in the English Channel trade node. We do want to own them, and later, depending on what your goals are, you may even move into the Lubeck trade node. Of course, if you're colonizing, like I said, you're going to want to take the coast of Africa, basically the old trade company regions like the Ivory Coast, South Africa down here, and then move into India and in the East Indies as well. Of course, you don't have to colonize as England. You can just play tall, focus on Europe, depending on what your goals are. Later, of course, you might use Austria to help you beat Castile and Aragon. If you want to expand into Iberia, you may use Castile and Aragon to help you beat Austria. If you're expanding in the Low Countries, it's totally up to you what you do after this point. But using this second strategy as England, where we don't PU France, by this point, you should be set up like this. For your first two idea groups, you either took exploration and expansion or quality and trade, but no matter what you opened up with, you're gonna take the other two that you didn't take. So for me, after quality and trade, it's gonna be exploration and expansion, and after that, it's up to you. Or if you opened up with exploration expansion, I recommend going quality and trade, or quality and economic. It's totally up to you. This is what we took for our first 3 government reforms. For tier 4, I recommend taking meritocratic recruitment. For tier 5, I recommend taking general estates. When the age of absolutism comes around, swap to royal decree. However, if you max out over 100 absolutism, which shouldn't really happen as the English monarchy since you have minus 30 max absolutism, you can totally swap back to general estates. For tier 6, you should take l'état c'est moi, and for tier 7, you should take political absolutism. Once again, if you max out over 100 absolutism, which may not be the case, you can swap to legislative houses for +1 admin possible policies. And like I said, by around the 1490s, your realm should look a little something like this. If you're not that confident in your abilities, or if you're not sure if your game is gonna go like mine, this save file is available for all YouTube members in the Save Games Discord channel, and you can continue playing as England from this date forward. Let me know in the comments below what's the next nation that you would like to see a guide on. If you want to watch me do stuff like this live, you can follow me on twitch.tv/TheRedHawkLive, and if you want to catch up on stuff from over there, you can subscribe to the second channel, link is in the description. If you enjoyed this video, don't hesitate to leave a like, it really helps out a lot, and if you want to see more guides like this, or more EU4 videos in general, definitely hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on anything. And you can become a member today and join the Discord, the link is in the description. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time with another EU4 video.